Hey lady, welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie. I'm wife to James and mom to 5 beautiful kids ages 9 and under with 1 miscarried baby. Here we see postpartum all the way from birth to the first year of life as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 73. Hi lady, I hope you're well. Let's get right into it this week. Free things are first up, and if you've been around a while, you know that free things are a mental shorthand way of reminding myself, and hopefully you in the process, of all of the things in life that we have to be grateful for. This week's free things include a birthday reward to a local cafe. I was able to get both a blueberry muffin and a chocolate chip cookie and shared those with the kids after supper that night. We all enjoyed that quite a bit. And then this other one's going to sound a little conventional, and here it is. But I'm hopeful that it will jog your memory for something recent that has been the same for you, a similar occurrence. And the free thing that was offered to me this past week was the gift of being asked for advice. When someone asks us for advice, they are trusting us. They are putting confidence in us. It's a vote of confidence in us. And last week I was asked by another young mother about snack and meal ideas for her toddler. And it was just really kind that she reached out and thought that my opinion was worth having on that subject. I really appreciated that. The last thing that we had enjoyed for free this week was Santa and donuts. Our local village had planned a Santa parade on Saturday evening, actually. And then the weathers were crazy low. The weathers. What does that mean? The temperature was crazy low. And the parade got canceled. But the photo op with Santa, plus donuts and hot chocolate and an ornament craft from the library at the KFC hall were all still scheduled for afterwards. We really enjoyed that very much. And less than 24 hours later, we saw a different Santa after Mass for coffee and donuts. That means that Cecilia had not one, but 2 photo ops with Santa this past weekend, which is just funny. It doesn't actually occur to me to do photo ops for my children with Santa Claus because we've never made a priority of that. I know historically the joke is that you put your kid on Santa's lap and then they cry or they're upset. We just have not really ever worried about it, but it was really important to my almost 8 years old this Saturday, to my almost 8-year-old that we have a picture of Cecilia with Santa, and that's what we did. And by golly, it was darling. I think that's everything. That's everything I wanted to say. And then one small change. And if you've been around a minute, again, you know that we talk about one small change to remember that there is always some progress to make note of in the postpartum period. There's always something that's changing. Sometimes it feels like every single day is the same and we wash, rinse, repeat, but there is always something to take note of, some little bit of growth in ourselves and our baby and both of us. And this week is a great example of that because Cecilia has cut her first tooth. She is 6 months old now and she's already got that first tooth popping through. And then my own one small change is a long time coming and it feels like now a big change because I have had calf pain, specifically in my right leg, for almost 6 months. It just went away in the last week. I noticed that it was gone, if that makes sense. I didn't notice it. And it had been hurting a fair amount for quite a while. I've been working to try to stretch it, do exercises to strengthen other areas of the body, try to pull some of that tightness out. And I really do think that it was a combination of the therapy, physical therapy, of course, but the chiropractor seems to have made the biggest difference because I had 3 or 4 adjustments, I think, and I've been going to physical therapy for months and months. But after about 3 or 4 adjustments, I started to notice an improvement. And then in the last week, I'm not even feeling it. And I'm just very grateful for that because was it ever terrible? No, but it really was bothersome for quite a long time. I'm very grateful for that to be over. This week's episode is going to be short and sweet because there's not a ton that I want to say about it, but I did want to address this topic of introducing solid foods to babies. And I want to put this out there first and foremost that I'm not in a camp. There can be so many things as we're raising children where people divide into camps.
I just don't think that's necessary. How you introduce solids to your child is not a religious preference. It is not a moral matter. And I'm going to offer to you what we do, what has worked, what's evolved over time. Not because I think you need to do the same thing, but because I do believe it's worth thinking about what might work for you, what has worked for you in the past if you have older children. And then just to go from there, the lazy genius way that I've mentioned time and time again does not break down into neat type A, type B, or now I'm hearing type C moms. And frankly, I actually don't really know what type C means. But the lazy genius way is a framework I have found very helpful to conceptualize my approach to motherhood, to parenting, to lots of things. And it is simply this: we are to be a genius about the things that really, truly do matter to us and lazy about the things that don't, recognizing that not everything can be important to us, but also that it is not true either that everything or that nothing should matter to us. So avoiding the two extremes and just saying, focus on what matters most to you and don't worry about the things that don't. I classify our approach to solid food introduction now to babies as similar to the unschooling approach, which is not what the school approach that we take when we homeschool our kids. We have our curriculum. It's actually very structured, very regimented. But by that, I mean, when my first son was born, my first child, who's now 9.5 years old, we did baby food with him. And then by the time my daughter came around, I wanted to be a little bit more loosey-goosey, and I thought maybe I was going to make my own baby food. And I pureed a thing or two in the food processor, but then that just seemed like a lot of effort. And then by the time the third child came around, who's now 4, I was just starting to offer scraps from the table. And that's what we're doing now. That is what we do now. We give just the tiniest little fragments, and we are clear with the other kids that it's only Daddy and I who are able to do that with the baby because her throat is very, very small, is how we explain it to them. So just Mama and Daddy are able to offer food to the baby, though the 2-year-old went and put a goldfish next to her the other day, and I thought, Jiminy Christmas. No, thank you. But fortunately, there was absolutely no danger at all because we've been introducing little snips, that's not even a word, little bits of things for close to a week now. And every single thing she just pushes right back out of her mouth with her tongue. And I remember all over again, oh yeah, that's what the baby always do. They push the food out before they finally start to take it in. We are in absolutely no rush on any of this, but every night at supper, we'll offer a little bite of something and see what she does with it until one day, she starts to accept it. But all of that simply to say, at first we started with baby food. We've kind of progressed to now we just do table foods. We start that at 6 months. With the first 2 or 3, I think with the first 3 kids, I was fairly regimented about pulling out 1 feeding a month so that the weaning process was very, very gradual. And I pictured, I'm making the motion with my hands right now, which of course you can't see, but I picture it as sort of like easing up on one as you're moving forward on the other, like if you're moving levers, I guess. And as we would ramp up the solid food, then we're slowly taking out a feeding. It's become even less structured, even less a formal thing as each child has come. And now it's pretty much just, how many times a day do you want to eat, Dolly? By which I mean Cecilia. I don't actually even know how many times I feed her. She had backed off on her sleeping to a period of, or time frame of 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. for several weeks. But then about a week ago, right around the same time frame of her popping this tooth through, she's moved back to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. She gets up at that time, roughly, and then I just feed her every couple of hours or so with no real even awareness of how often it's happening. I just offer her the breast a bunch of times during the day, and then at night, not at all at night. I don't wake her up or anything. She just goes to bed, and then unless she wakes up, I don't wake her up. But it was comforting to me for a time to have the structure of every month I'm planning to pull out a feeding. And of course, right now, well, she's really not having any oral intake from food. There's not any point in trying to wean anything because she's not supplementing it with any type of solids. But I will be more aware of that in a general way the older that she gets and the closer to 1 year. With all of my kids, I've breastfed them until a year. Again, Not trying to put you in any particular camp, lady. It's just I'm sharing with you what has worked for me. At a year, I have stopped. That's when we've started to introduce cow's milk, and that's when we've been done with breastfeeding. All of that, I think, can really be just that simple. I really do think it can be just that simple. I know that oftentimes when you have a baby, especially if it's your first baby, you hear things like document their poops and their pees and how often they're feeding and what times. I just don't have any time for that. I don't have the mental space to pay attention to those things unless for some reason there seemed to be something wrong. Then I guess that would be worth doing early on. But the more loosely you can hold your baby's feeding, I think the better. That's in my experience. Which is why now that we're on baby number 5, we'll just offer a little something to Cecilia every night. And eventually she'll start to take it. My husband offered her, I think, a couple of bites tonight of different things. And then by the second or third offer of applesauce, I think she did push it out less. Or maybe even started to take a little bit of it in. You hear things like, don't give them sweet things like applesauce right away. You need to give bland things first. I think you can do whatever you want, lady. I think you can do whatever you want. At least I do whatever I want now. I just can't tell that it makes a lick of difference to the child's overall nutritional trajectory in any measurable way. That's pretty much everything that I wanted to say on the subject. I thought it was hopefully, I want it to be helpful to you to consider what sort of ideas maybe do we have in our heads about what is necessary or how other people do things. To what degree is there some structure or formality to the process? And can we hold as loosely as possible how we feed our child? See what comes without stressing about it and just see what works. See what works. It's been a real blessing, I think, that in the midst of having other children with sometimes more pressing things to attend to, I am finding myself much more able to relax with Cecilia about developmental milestones, things like introducing solids. It's happening, but there's no pressure on it. I hope you have a great rest of your week, lady. I'll talk to you soon.